watch out!
The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom builds on the Breath of the Wild formula while delivering a timeless story of sacrifice, faith, and courage. The expanded gameplay loop in this latest version of Hyrule creates one of the best open-world video game sandboxes of all time. The game perfectly bookends the Nintendo Switch console era with a Zelda game that is overflowing with things to do. Tears of the Kingdom begins with Zelda and Link investigating a gloom sweeping upwards from beneath Hyrule Castle. After descending into the depths, Link and Zelda discover a decayed body of the Demon King with a robotic-looking arm stuck in its chest. The arm falls out of the corpse-like body, dropping a tear-shaped secret stone that Zelda picks up. Link jumps in front of Zelda to defend her from the Demon King's attack, wielding the Master Sword in front. The sword shatters to the dismay of Zelda. Link's arm sustains serious damage, and he loses all but 3 heart containers. As the Demon King causes the world to open up, Zelda falls into a chasm and disappears, as Link fails to grab her hand. The opening of The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom sets a very somber tone as a voice explains to Link that he almost died and has lost his arm.
Your arm, however, was beyond saving. I had to replace it, lest the injury endanger you further.
Link awakens on a sky island with none of his powers from Breath of the Wild, 3 hearts and some rags for clothing. Tears of the Kingdom introduces players to the new gameplay mechanics in a similar fashion to its predecessor, with Link learning Fuse, Ultra Hand, Ascend, and Recall. Auto Build is one more ability that can be learned once players leave the Sky Island, but the game certainly doesn't point you to that place. It's quite strange to not include all of the abilities in the introductory part of the game, and some players may not discover Auto Build until later in their playthrough. I was a player who didn't discover Auto Build for weeks. Before diving down to Hyrule from the Sky Island, Link encounters a yellow ball of energy at the Temple of Time for a brief moment. The Master Sword is no stranger to time travel, and this is no different in Tears of the Kingdom, as Link hands the damaged legendary blade over to the yellow orb, only to see the Master Sword disappear into thin air. Hylians began rebuilding with Princess Zelda seemingly out of the picture, and the world of Hyrule has changed by the upheaval caused by the return of the Demon King. Sure, much work needed to be done with giant rocks falling from the sky and massive chasms appearing in the ground, but it was shocking to see just how fast many citizens in the Kingdom of Hyrule attempted to get back to a new normal. Players will encounter a worker holding up signs early on in their journey through Hyrule. The guy really seems to love this President Hudson fellow. There are dozens of Hudson signs strewn across Hyrule that task players with helping the wary construction worker figure out how to hold up a sign long enough to secure it. Ultra Hand puzzles like these are one of the more divisive parts of Tears of the Kingdom. Some players are turned off by the controls, and others struggle to solve puzzles, but I personally enjoyed the evolved take on Zelda gameplay that is featured in shrines, side quests, and temples. Hateno Village has really changed since the upheaval. Fashion designer Cece is making waves with her stylish mushroom clothing. After gaining so much clout, she tasked Link with bribing citizens to vote for her in the mayoral election with free mushrooms. Since when was Hyrule a democracy, and why is Link, a royal knight, being tasked with rigging an election? This is a fine example of the distracting nature of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. CC should be ashamed of herself, but we know most politicians have no soul. With filthy capitalist and scheming politicians seemingly undermining the Kingdom of Hyrule, it may come as relief that there are journalists working to report facts. But the Lucky Clover Gazette certainly highlights the dangers of believing everything you read in the newspaper. The news outlet enlists Link to help get to the bottom of several stories about sightings of Princess Zelda all throughout the kingdom. Fake news? In Hyrule? In this economy? The Lucky Clover Gazette may have unintentionally spread misinformation with wild alleged claims about Princess Zelda's behavior. There are a lot of side quests in The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom that are true distractions from the main campaign questline. Not all of the side quests are blatant affronts to the Hyrule monarchy, like the ones mentioned already, with some fun wells and caves to explore and the occasional shrine crystal quest that will test your puzzle solving skills. Some side quests will be pretty involved, with a deflating payoff of some rupees. The familiar locations of Rito Village, Goron City, Zora's Domain, and Gerudo Town are all faced with challenging regional phenomena in Tears of the Kingdom. Link is once again asked to aid the people of Hyrule in a series of quests that leads players all over the kingdom's skies, land, and underworld. Tears of the Kingdom introduces a brand new underworld called the Depths early on in the game. The Depths are a dark, scary place where players' resources go to die. The The depths are another divisive aspect of the game, where some players will entirely check out. But I found the contrast of light and dark driven by unlocking light routes to be extremely enjoyable despite feeling frustrated early on. The depths tend to be the inverse of the hilly and overworld above, with giant walls of rock appearing underneath bodies of water. It's enjoyable to dive down a chasm into the depths and use your glider to scope out as many light route locations as you descend further into darkness. Things get easier as players progress through the game, unlocking the powers of each sage. It's a shame that many players will never make it to the game's ultimate payoff, because of the overwhelming feeling of having too much to do. So many gameplay mechanics to learn, and the inherent distracting nature of the open world's design. Tears of the Kingdom attempts to build upon the Divine Beast formula of Breath of the Wild, with new temples that were marketed by Nintendo as dungeons. Without going into too much detail, it's safe to say that I enjoyed getting to the temples more than completing them. The path packed with sweet jumps off floating sailboats on the way to the Wind Temple's entrance was a personal highlight of the game. The massive waterfall pathway that leads players to the Water Temple is astonishing, but the puzzles and quests that led up to the grandiose moment were honestly more enjoyable than completing the temple itself. While the scene atop Death Mountain that leads players to the Fire Temple is also amazing in its scale, that temple was one of the most enjoyable ones to complete, with some fun minecart gameplay. The most dungeon-like part of the game is certainly the Lightning Temple, which was actually as fun to find as it was to complete. None of the temples are teeming with challenging enemies, and the design certainly is full of echoes of the Divine Beast of Breath of the Wild. But boss battles are where Tears of the Kingdom shines. The game's scale allows for some very impressive boss fights at the end of each temple, and even down in the depths where players can fight the same bosses again, alongside a slew of other very difficult enemies. I had more fun playing Breath of the Wild, but Tears of the Kingdom is undoubtedly a better video game. Some of the sentiment comes from the fact that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild felt like a brand new experience when it launched alongside the Nintendo Switch console in 2017. But there are aspects of how Tears of the Kingdom's predecessor handles Link's abilities, the champion's powers, and the overall control scheme that truly felt better than some design choices made in this 2023 release. While the fuse ability is awesome and unlocks a world of experimentation with attaching sticks to rocks and hitting other rocks, it also removed some of the chaotic fun that Breath of the Wild players could get into by chaining together bombs and stasis to create all sorts of emergent gameplay moments. Tears of the Kingdom is not devoid of opportunities for similar gameplay situations to arise, but there are times when the game feels like it's putting you to work as opposed to letting you play. The way that stage powers work in Tears of the Kingdom are downright wonky at times. It was probably not the best idea to use the same button that players use to pick up items to be a way to trigger these powers. Things can get really messy with all the sages on screen at once in a tight area, and the implementation of the controls made me long for Breath of the Wild's simple and easy to use inputs. Tears of the Kingdom improves on Breath of the Wild's formula in several ways that really stood out to me during my extended time playing the game for review. The scale of the post-upheaval Hyrule can't be understated. While the depths and Sky Islands more than double the playable area from the 2017 Zelda game, there are even more detailed additions like the exquisitely designed cave systems, countless wells, and sometimes amusing Korok challenges. Shrines are still a key part of progression, with some existing in the sky and others appearing in newly minted caves. Most light routes are located directly under shrines, creating a new back and forth gameplay loop when searching for either. Tears of the Kingdom is possibly the greatest Zelda story ever told, and it's not just the narrative structure that wows players, but the truly unique delivery system. Breath of the Wild's memories were literally just laying around the world on the ground for players to stumble upon. Tears of the Kingdom creates a truly unique and fun way of discovering story segments, with the introduction of geoglyphs. Each luminescent drawing on the Hyrule landscape contains several images of tears with one solid tear. The easiest way to find these tears is to engage in a series of sweet jumps with the aid of Skyview Towers and Sky Islands. While Link's main quest is to find Princess Zelda, I wish the game stressed how important these geoglyphs are to the player early on. The moment when Link retrieves the Master Sword on top of the Light Dragon certainly makes a lot more sense if players have watched all of the memories captured in those tears.
It's something only I can do.
The story of Tears of the Kingdom showcases why it's Zelda that is the legend. As players view a series of memories, the source of the literal tears becomes apparent. When Zelda disappeared at the beginning of the game, She was transported back in time to an era in which the Kingdom of Hyrule was founded. She encounters the first King and Queen of Hyrule and is taken under their wings as she tries to figure out a way back to her time. The memories show Zelda's struggles with trying to help King Rauru and Queen Sonia in their time, while also trying to get back home. In a poignant conversation with Rauru's sister Minoru, Zelda learns that sages who hold a secret stone like the one that unlocked her ability to travel back in time are able to transform into immortal dragons. There's also another touching discussion during which Queen Sonia reveals to Zelda that she possesses both a power over time and a sacred power that can dispel evil. Zelda witnesses the sheer evil of Ganondorf as the villain uses her image as a disguise in a plot to murder Queen Sonia, stealing her secret stone and using it to become the Demon King. She later warns Rauru that she believes that the Demon King will defeat all of the sages as he was still alive 1,000 years in the future. She is convinced that Rauru will likely die. It's at this moment that King Rauru teaches Zelda a very important leadership lesson.
I remain the King of Hyrule. As with any leader, it is my duty to safeguard and protect my people, even if I must risk my life.
Zelda was right, and Rauru did pass away in the imprisoning war, with one last act of tremendous courage, sealing the Demon King away for 1,000 years. That robotic-looking arm that Zelda encountered underneath Hyrule Castle at the beginning of the game was indeed King Rauru's, and Link did prove to be their final hope. With the lessons she learned from Rauru, Sonia, and Minoru while in the past, Zelda faces what would be a difficult decision to most people with a sense of bravery, determination, and faith that is extremely admirable. I don't think I know anyone who would become an immortal dragon to heal my sword that seals the darkness for 1,000 years, so I could defeat evil once and for all. Do you? Zelda's faith and belief in Link is a beautiful sight to behold in Tears of the Kingdom.
Queen Sonia!
And of course, you must make it home safe to put Link's mind at ease.
Link? That is not a name I have heard.
He is a royal knight. He had been originally appointed for my protection. But later, he became a hero by saving both me and Hyrule from a great evil.
Oh, a hero is he?
He is so very dedicated, and he refuses to back down from any challenge. He is very strong. And his heart is good and true.
Ah, I can see that you have absolute faith in him. Hearing you speak so highly of Link, I find myself wanting to meet him as well.
Indeed. I would also like to meet him. He must be quite the brave, courageous knight. What a picture Zelda paints of him.
The scene in which Zelda realizes why she was sent back to ancient Hyrule builds her character in a way that hasn't really been achieved in past entries. The Master Sword truly shines in this moment, and it was extremely cheeky how Nintendo was able to use a clip from that scene in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom official trailer number 3 without spoiling the story at all. In her final conversation with Zelda, Spirit Sage Minoru exclaims that it would be throwing yourself away, but Zelda's decision has been made. Minoru vows to support Link in support of her decision to become an immortal dragon.
Even if my body should perish, I will still be with you in spirit.
The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is not a story of one hero. Ancient Hyrule had its great heroes that fought the Demon King at the imprisoning war, with King Rauru putting his faith in Zelda and Link. Some shrines in Tears of the Kingdom are called Rauru's Blessing, and they usually appear or are located around some sort of cool thing for players to do. Jumping from a sky island into a whirlpool in Lake Hylia, for example. Shrines with Rauru's Blessing subtitles also contain treasure chests with sweet loot. Another hero of the story has to be the Master Sword. Nintendo's use of the weapon as a key for time travel and defeating evil in Tears of the Kingdom is excellent. The moment when players retrieve the Master Sword, after its 1,000 years of bathing in the Light Dragon's sacred energy, is one of the most exciting video game moments in franchise history. The final dragon tear, titled Zelda's Wish, cements the beauty of that moment. After clearing all the regions from their various phenomena and acquiring the energy-infused sword, I was ready to kick the Demon King's ass, right? Nope. It's a nice head fake moment in Hyrule Castle where you face off with several Phantom Ganons. The Demon King appears at the end of the battle and laughs at you for not having the 5th Sage. It sets off a new quest to find Minoru.
cannot hope to escape your fate. My power will sweep across this land. You need but await the inevitable end.
Minoru carried out her vow to Zelda and had created a robot body to house her spirit. That's right, the final stage is a robot mech. The game throws a robot mech into the gameplay mix many hours into the playthrough. Then they let players attach cannons to both hands of the robot. Minoru is the best sage, and makes navigating the gloom-infested depths an order of magnitude easier when compared to the days of using an auto build of a hoverbike that's 2 fans and a control stick stuck together. The path to finding Minoru is a beautiful use of so many systems and environments in the game. The game challenges players to find lightning armor down by the river. Then they unlock a new sky island to find a door that you need a certain amount of hearts to open. To then build a plane to fly down into the depths where Minoru is waiting to be assembled. The entire late game experience really kicks it up a notch with Thunderhead Isle's Sky Island and the Spirit Temple. Minoru makes the task of ridding the depths of Koga's Yiga clan a lot easier. The final boss battle of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the best ending sequence to a Nintendo video game. Players must descend to the deepest part of the depths underneath Hyrule Castle to defeat the Demon King. The path to the final battle is full of enemies with gloom all over the terrain. After fighting another Phantom Ganon, a Lynel, and a bunch more enemies along the way, players get to the final battle. But first, the sages and I had to defeat the Demon King's army. After that, we had to fight a reinvigorated Demon King Ganondorf. After knocking out his health bar entirely, Demon King Ganondorf enters a second phase with a much larger health bar, comically larger. Demon King Ganondorf fights unlike any other enemies players have encountered in the game, introducing a number of attack patterns tied to his ability to switch weapons mid-battle. Link can do some damage with a Flurry Rush attack, but it requires dodging 2 hits before you're able to strike. Demon King Ganondorf can literally break your depleted heart containers during the battle, decreasing your maximum health. It is really cool to see the game introduce multiple brand new gameplay mechanics at such a pivotal moment. With this massive health bar nearly half depleted, Demon King Ganondorf incapacitates the sages, leaving it up to Link to defeat him. Matt Mercer's excellent voice acting performance elevates the epic final battle. After a few more rounds of varied attacks, I was able to defeat Demon King Ganondorf once and for all. But he did the unthinkable, tearing his secret stone from his head and eating it. The draconified Demon King emerges from the depths of Hyrule as the Demon Dragon, with Link clenched in his teeth for one last battle. It should come as no surprise that the Light Dragon shows up to knock Link from the Demon Dragon's clutches, to kick off the final showdown featuring 2 dragons and a series of sweet jumps. At the end of the battle, Link stabs the Demon Dragon in the center of its secret stone, setting off the largest explosion ever witnessed in the Kingdom of Hyrule. With the evil defeated, Link and the Light Dragon are transported to another realm. Link's robotic arm begins to glow as King Rauru and Queen Sonia appear behind him. With their powers combined, the Light Dragon is transformed back to her human form. Zelda appears asleep as they both reappear back in the real world, plummeting to their deaths. This gameplay sequence is just one last cherry on top for the masterpiece that culminates in both Link and Zelda landing safely in a nice pond. Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom is a celebration of an era of development at Nintendo. It truly felt like producer Eiji Onuma and his team dumped every cool idea they had on the table and made it a reality on Nintendo Switch. Longtime fans of the series will absolutely love the conclusion to the story of Zelda and Link of Hyrule, and completionists will have hundreds of hours of gameplay with so very many things to do. Players all over the world continue to share ideas for wacky Ultra Hand builds, while speedrunners continue to shave off seconds trying to perfect their runs. The game is truly what the player makes of it. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is not a perfect game, but it gets so many things right in ways that it outshines its blemishes. Nintendo has built the most expansive world and eloquently paired it with a wonderful narrative that concludes in tremendous fashion. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has lived up to the high expectations created by the success of Breath of the Wild. and its exquisitely intertwined gameplay systems, outstanding music, and legendary story culminating in a magnificent denouement. It's not every day that such a special video game like this comes around. Truly the stuff of legend.